Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Italy, apart from meeting a number of other heads of state and governments, will also be meeting the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. Now, the two have actually had multiple conversations. Giorgia Meloni was in India twice. Prime Minister referred to it last year for G20. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Italy in 2021. Now, she's won 1 billion hearts in India with her Namaste gesture, greeting the several G7 heads of state and governments. The internet, of course, a buzz as it waits for the big Melodi moment, the Melodi Jodi meeting. We get you more in this report.
The eyes of the world are locked on the scenic seaside town of Asano for the G7 summit, with many checking social media for the first pictures of the Jab They Met moment between Modi and Meloni. Be it the COP28 or last year's G20, the Melodi Jodi is always a delight. Their camaraderie first broke the internet when Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni posted a selfie with Prime Minister Modi with the hashtag Melodi at COP28 in Dubai. The Melodi images have been trending on social media since, and meme makers have a field day when both make an appearance together. Their laughter-filled exchanges have always made headlines. The Modi-Meloni friendship really hit the ground when the Italian Prime Minister was invited as the chief guest at the inaugural session of the 8th Raisina Dialogue. Excitement is high ahead of Prime Minister Modi and Meloni's meeting at the G7 summit. Giorgia Meloni's Namaste gesture has already gone viral ahead of the leaders' meet. Even though India is not a member of the G7, Prime Minister Modi has been invited by his Italian counterpart to mark his presence at the summit. This is going to be Prime Minister Modi's first foreign trip after swearing in for his third consecutive term as Prime Minister. Meloni was the first European leader to congratulate Prime Minister Modi after his win. As the world awaits Melodi reunion at G7, both leaders have also been working to boost strategic and diplomatic ties. Bureau Report, India Today.
Ambassador Dogra, India-Italy ties have been improving. Of course, there was once that downslide in that relationship, but ever since that issue was sorted out of that incident off the coast of Kerala with the ship guards and the fishermen, the relationship has been not just on the mend, but on the rise. How do you see this relationship move forward with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Giorgia Meloni at the helm of affairs in the two countries, both having won elections in their own countries and the European Union?
You know, when one talks in terms of two great civilizations, the Italian and the Indian, then you have to look back deep in time. And when you do that, there was a time about 2,000 years back when Italy was very worried. They said, we are importing so many spices and silks and so much of them from India that will probably go down in deep debt and it might bankrupt our economy. So that was one statement, but it also conveyed the fact that there were intense relations, trade relations between India and Italy at that time, two millennia back. In recent years, I remember when I was first posted in Italy in the 1980s, there were all of 300 Indian passport holders there. The second time when I went there in this millennium, I asked my officers, how many are they? So we did a quick survey and we found that there were nearly 100,000 Indian passport holders. Most of them came in from Punjab. Most of them came in mid-80s and late 80s. Most of them started in very desperate circumstances, including in the area around where the summit is taking place now. It is a rich agricultural area, and Indians who migrated there, the young people, they lived initially in miserable and very low pay conditions. But over the years and over one generation, it has reached such a pass that they have done well through sheer hard work and through sheer commitment. And today, 50% of Italian cheese and ham is made by Indian hands. So some of it also owned by Indians who have done well over the years.
Wonderful,
So
but there is
the
also a
relationship
downside, when we talk about the Khalistani elements who actually desecrated Mahatma Gandhi's statue that the Prime Minister was to unveil. How has Italy's response been? So, for example, if we talk about Canada, Canada's response has been so disappointing. America's response has been extremely disappointing. On the contrary, America with that Pannu case actually takes the relationship to a different low. But what about Italy, sir?
Well, I'll tell you from my own experience that there was apprehension that let's not approach these people, they are Khalistanis. The first time when I went to address an Indian gathering of these youth, there were 5,000 plus people. And there was concern that maybe things might go out of hand. But I can tell you, my stay in Italy as ambassador, they went out of their way to be affectionate towards Indian embassy, to be cooperative with the Indian embassy. So it has to work two ways. But unfortunately, in the recent past, I won't blame Indian diplomats or Indian embassy for this, but in the recent past, ISI has been successful in cultivating a number of Indian nationals and in encouraging them to do acts like this, like desecrating Mahatma Gandhi's statue. So we have to be cautious and we have to be careful as to what a sizable community like this,
yes,
100,000 plus, can do and which way it can turn in case it gets more encouragement and allurement from concerns like ISI. But to your question as to the reaction of Italy and how Italy responds to our concerns, I would say that Italy is an exception as compared to Canada and perhaps also to USA, and it has always cooperated positively and sympathetically to Indian concerns over issues that affect India's security or issues where India has expressed apprehension about terrorism being supported or encouraged in Italy.
It's extremely disappointing, and these Western countries, to a very large extent, European countries, they're suffering themselves. Of course, Italy is that rare exception under Giorgia Meloni. They respond very positively to India's concerns. But if we were to talk about some of the other countries in Europe, they're suffering themselves, and yet their action against Khalistani elements or Khalistan terror supporters leaves a lot to be desired. If we were to move across the Atlantic Ocean and talk both about Canada and the United States of America, they need to do so much more. We'll talk about that in greater detail.